The Odyssey shook violently as we pierced through the violet clouds of Zephyr 9, the ship's hull groaning against the atmospheric pressure like an old man protesting against a heavy load. I gripped the armrests of my seat, my heart racing with a mix of exhilaration and dread. Captain Ethan Carter's voice crackled over the intercom, steady and reassuring, his authoritative tone a balm to our collective anxiety. "Prepare for descent, team. We'll be landing shortly," he announced, his eyes fixed on the swirling hues outside the viewport. I stole a glance at Dr. Lila Jensen, who sat across from me, her fingers dancing across her tablet, documenting every detail of our approach. She was the epitome of focus, her brow furrowed in concentration as the landscape below transformed from a vague blur into sharp outlines of crystalline formations. "Look at that!" Alex Turner, our tech-savvy engineer, exclaimed, leaning forward in his seat, his blue eyes wide with wonder. "It's like something out of a dream. Those structures are incredible." He pointed at the jagged towers that jutted out of the ground, glimmering under the violet sun. "More like a nightmare if you ask me," I muttered under my breath, though I couldn't help but feel a thrill at the sight. The landscape's surreal beauty was intoxicating, a stark contrast to the mundane life we had left behind on Earth. As the ship settled onto the surface with a soft thud, I unbuckled my seatbelt and rose, the excitement palpable in the cramped cabin. Captain Carter was already at the hatch, his hand resting on the control panel. "Everyone, gear up. Let's make history." The gravity of his words hung in the air, a reminder of the mission that lay ahead. Once outside, the violet atmosphere enveloped us, thick and almost tangible. I took a deep breath, the air fragrant with peculiar alien scents that tickled my senses. "Wow, it's beautiful," Lila breathed, her eyes scanning the landscape with an almost childlike wonder. "The colors, the structures. It's like we've stepped into another world." "Let's set up camp over there," Captain Carter gestured towards a relatively flat area, free of the towering crystals. "Lila, I want you to start collecting atmospheric samples. We need to understand what we're dealing with here." "On it," she replied, already moving towards her equipment with a sense of purpose. I followed, setting up our base camp while stealing glances at the surroundings, where shadows danced beneath the crystalline arches, their origins hidden in the violet haze. "Hey Ethan," I called out as I unfolded the solar panels. "What do you think happened to the civilization that built this? Do you think they're still around?" Carter turned, his face thoughtful. "Who knows? That's why we're here. To find answers. But whatever happened, we need to be careful. We don't know what we're walking into." The tension in his voice sent a shiver down my spine. I glanced at Lila, who was now crouched near a crystalline formation, examining it closely. "What do you think, Lila?" I asked. "Do you think we'll find anything interesting? Or is it just a ghost town?" She looked up, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "What if it's not a ghost town? What if we uncover something that changes everything we know about life beyond Earth?" Her enthusiasm was contagious, and I felt a spark of hope igniting within me. As night began to fall, the violet sky deepened into a darker shade, and the air grew cooler. "Let's check out those ruins," Carter suggested, pointing towards a distant silhouette against the horizon. "Lila, grab your gear. Alex, bring the scanner." With our hearts pounding in our chests, we ventured towards the ruins, the eerie beauty of the landscape casting a spell over us. The structures loomed larger as we approached, their intricate carvings barely visible in the fading light. The atmosphere felt charged, a silent warning that something lay just beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. "Look at these carvings," Lila said, tracing her fingers over the stone. "They depict a civilization. But there's something ominous about them." Her voice dropped to a whisper as we all leaned in closer, the darkness around us amplifying the sense of foreboding. "Do you think they knew what was coming?" I asked, my voice barely above a murmur. Carter's expression hardened as he stepped back, scanning the area cautiously. "Let's not jump to conclusions. We need to gather data first. We're here to uncover the truth, not to speculate." As we stood there, the weight of the moment pressed down on us. The ruins whispered secrets of a time long gone, and I felt an unsettling certainty that we were about to unravel mysteries that perhaps should have remained buried. With a shared glance, we knew we were on the brink of something monumental, yet fraught with danger. The adventure had only just begun. The morning sun broke through the violet haze, casting an otherworldly glow over the ruins as I traced my fingers along the intricate carvings. Each line seemed to tell a story, a glimpse into the life of a civilization that had once thrived in this alien world. Dr. Lila Jensen stood beside me, her brow furrowed in concentration as she examined the patterns more closely. "Look at this, Ethan," she said, her voice a mix of wonder and excitement. "These carvings depict not just daily life but also advanced technology. They had something we haven't seen before." I nodded, feeling the weight of history in the air. "What do you think they were capable of? This looks like a blueprint for something." "Possibly," Lila mused, her eyes sparkling. "They might have harnessed energy in a way we can't even fathom. This could redefine everything we know about ancient civilizations." As our conversation deepened, Alex Turner, our engineer, was digging in the soft soil nearby. Suddenly, he let out a grunt of surprise. "Hey guys! Check this out." He pulled out a strange device, partially buried and covered in dirt. It was sleek and metallic, with symbols etched into its surface that glimmered even in the muted light. "What did you find?" I asked, rushing over. Alex brushed off the dirt, revealing more of the device. "I'm not sure what it is, but it looks like it could be some sort of technology. Maybe it's connected to those carvings." Lila's curiosity piqued as she examined the object. "It might be a form of communication or even a power source. We need to activate it." "Are you sure that's a good idea?" I questioned, a twinge of caution creeping into my voice. "We don't know what it's capable of." "We won't know unless we try," Lila insisted, her eyes gleaming with determination. "This could be a breakthrough in understanding their civilization." Reluctantly, I agreed, knowing how much this meant to her. "All right, but let's be careful." Alex carefully connected the device to a power source from our camp, and Lila began to input a series of commands based on her analysis of the carvings. As she pressed the final button, the device whirred to life, projecting holographic images into the air. The sight was mesmerizing yet terrifying. We watched as scenes of the civilization's last days unfolded before us. Panic erupted in the streets, people running in every direction, their faces twisted in fear. Buildings crumbled, and an ominous darkness loomed overhead. "Is this their end?" I whispered, a chill running down my spine. Lila's expression shifted from fascination to horror. "This is catastrophic. It looks like they faced some sort of disaster, natural or man-made." "Look!" Alex shouted, pointing at the hologram. "What is that in the sky?" A swirling vortex appeared in the imagery, and the shadows of what looked like massive structures began to emerge. My heart raced as a sense of dread settled over me. "This feels like a warning. We shouldn't be here." Just then, an alarm blared from our camp, cutting through the tension. The shrill sound echoed ominously, sending us into a state of panic. "What's happening?" I shouted, my instincts kicking in. "A storm is coming. We need to retreat." Lila exclaimed, her earlier enthusiasm now replaced with urgency. We gathered our gear, but as we turned to run back to the ship, I caught a glimpse of something moving in the violet haze. Shadows flitted between the ruins, darting just out of sight. "Did you see that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What?" Alex replied, glancing back. "I saw something alive," I said, my pulse quickening. "Let's not stick around to find out," Lila urged, grabbing my arm. "We need to get to the ship now." As we sprinted, the wind howled around us, and the sky darkened ominously. The shadows continued to flicker at the edges of my vision, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. A sense of unease settled in my gut, intertwining with the mounting fear of the storm. Finally reaching the safety of the Odyssey, we hurried inside, locking the hatch behind us. The ship's interior buzzed with the sound of alarms and flashing lights, but all I could think about were the images we had witnessed and the shadows that lurked just beyond our sight. What had happened to the civilization that once called this place home? And were we truly alone on Zephyr 9? The storm had finally passed, leaving behind a stillness that felt almost eerie. I stood outside the Odyssey, gazing at the remnants of violet clouds drifting lazily across the sky. My heart raced as I turned to my crewmates, who were busy gathering their equipment and checking their gear. Dr. Lila Jensen was already deep in thought, her brow furrowed as she examined the ruins that loomed in the distance. "All right, team," Captain Carter called out, breaking the silence. "We need to regroup and decide our next steps. Lila, you mentioned you have a theory about the device we activated." Yes, she replied, her voice filled with excitement. I'm convinced it holds more secrets about this civilization. We can't just leave it behind. If we delve deeper into the ruins, we might find more clues. There's so much we don't understand yet. Alex Turner, ever the pragmatist, raised an eyebrow. Sure, but we've already seen what happened when we activated that device. It wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Are we really ready to dig deeper? I could see the tension in the air, a blend of curiosity and fear. We need to know what happened here, I chimed in, my own sense of urgency bubbling to the surface. If we can understand their fate, maybe we can avoid a similar one ourselves. Carter contemplated for a moment, his gaze shifting between Lila and Alex. All right, let's proceed with caution. We'll head back to the ruins, but we'll stay close to the ship. If anything feels off, we pull back, understood. With heads nodding in agreement, we gathered our gear and set off towards the towering structures. The ruins stood like sentinels against the violet sky, their crystalline surfaces glinting in the diffused light. As we approached, the carvings that adorned the walls seemed to whisper secrets of a long-lost civilization, pleading for someone to uncover their story. Inside the ruins, the air was thick with dust and the weight of history. Lila led the way, her eyes sparkling with fervor as she examined the intricate designs etched into the walls. "Look at this," she exclaimed, pointing to a series of symbols that depicted what appeared to be genetic sequences intertwined with images of flora and fauna. They had advanced knowledge of genetics. This civilization was not just thriving, they were experimenting, evolving. Alex knelt beside her, brushing away the dust to reveal more carvings. But what drove them to such extremes? Was it ambition or desperation? His voice was laced with concern, as if he could already sense the darkness that loomed beneath their achievements. Before Lila could respond, a low rumble echoed through the chamber, causing us all to freeze. What was that? I whispered, glancing nervously at Carter. Just settling dust, I'm sure, he replied, though I could hear the tension in his voice. Let's keep moving. We continued deeper into the ruins, the passages growing narrower and the air heavier. At last, we stumbled upon a hidden chamber, its entrance obscured by vines and debris. As we stepped inside, the sight took my breath away. Shelves lined with artifacts filled the room, strange devices, preserved samples, and scroll-like tablets that seemed to pulse with energy. This is incredible, Lila breathed, her hands trembling with anticipation. If we can analyze these artifacts, we might piece together their story. I picked up a small metallic object, its surface shimmering under the dim light. What do you think this is? I asked, turning it over in my hands. Possibly a tool for genetic manipulation, Lila speculated, her eyes widening. If they were experimenting with their DNA, they would need instruments like this. We might be looking at the key to their downfall. As we sifted through the artifacts, Lila's obsession grew more evident. Her excitement was contagious, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were treading on dangerous ground. Lila, I said cautiously, are you sure we should be pursuing this so aggressively? We don't know what we're dealing with. She turned to me, her expression fierce. We can't turn back now, Ethan. This could be our only chance to understand them, what they did, and why it went so wrong. The atmosphere thickened as we rummaged through the remnants of their past. As I unearthed a scroll, I couldn't shake the sense that we were being watched. The air felt charged, and I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see shadows lurking in the corners. Do you all feel that? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Feel what? Alex replied, frowning. Like, something is off. Like we're not alone here, I said, trying to shake off the chill that crept down my spine. We're fine, Carter assured me, though I could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Let's just focus on the task at hand. And so we did, but as we continued our exploration, the weight of the civilization's mystery loomed ever larger, casting a shadow over our every discovery. The more we uncovered, the more I realized that some truths were perhaps better left buried. As I stared at the journal, the words began to blur, my mind drifting away from the present moment. The ancient script seemed to pulse with a life of its own, wrapping around me like a fog. I could almost hear the echoes of the civilization that once thrived here, their voices mingling with the whispers of the violet winds. It was unsettling, this connection I felt, and the others noticed my distraction. Ethan, are you all right? Dr. Jensen asked, her brow furrowed with concern as she looked up from her own notes. "Yeah, I'm fine," I replied, though I could hear my voice tremble slightly. "It's just this journal. It's like it's pulling me in." Alex, who was tinkering with a small device he had found earlier, glanced over. "You're just stressed, Captain. We all are. This place is messing with our heads. It's probably the atmosphere or something." "Maybe," I muttered, but deep down, I knew it was more than that. I had been having these vivid dreams, visions of the civilization's last moments. I could see their panic, their fear, and it felt so real. I could almost feel their despair wrapping around me like a shroud. "Ethan, focus," Dr. Jensen urged. "We need to analyze what's in this journal. There's something here about genetic manipulation, and it's crucial to understanding what happened to them." I nodded, forcing myself to concentrate on the words before me. The journal described how they had manipulated their own DNA, attempting to adapt to environmental changes that threatened their survival. It was a desperate gamble, one that ultimately led to their extinction. I felt a chill run down my spine as I considered the implications. "Do you think they realized what they were doing?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Jensen shook her head, her expression grave. "I can't imagine they did. They were trying to save themselves, but they went too far. It's a cautionary tale, one we need to heed." "We should leave this place," Alex interjected, his fingers still fiddling with the strange device. "What if whatever happened to them happens to us?" "Running won't solve anything," Dr. Jensen replied, her eyes gleaming with a mix of excitement and obsession. "We have to dig deeper. There's so much more to learn here." "Lila, you're getting way too invested in this," I warned, my instincts flaring. "We don't understand the technology or the consequences. We could be playing with fire." But she was already moving, a determined look on her face. "I have to see if there's more to this technology. If they were able to manipulate their genetic codes, perhaps we could learn how to use it to our advantage. We could save ourselves." "Save ourselves?" I echoed, incredulous. "How? By risking everything? We don't even know if this tech is safe." Ignoring my protests, she led us to another site she had discovered earlier, her excitement palpable. I followed, my heart heavy with dread. As we approached the hidden chamber, Alex's eyes widened. "Whoa, look at this." He stepped into the room, revealing a trove of advanced technological devices, glimmering with an otherworldly sheen. It was breathtaking and terrifying. "What is this?" I murmured, stepping cautiously inside. Dr. Jensen approached the nearest device, her face alight with ambition. "This could be the key. If we can understand how it works, we might unlock their secrets. We could even find a way to protect ourselves from whatever fate they faced." "Lila, wait," I called, but she was already reaching for the device, her fingers trembling with anticipation. "This could change everything," she insisted, her voice rising with fervor. "We need to see what it can do." I hesitated, a knot tightening in my stomach. "You don't know what you're getting into. We need to think this through." She looked at me, her eyes fierce. "And what? Just leave it all behind? We can't turn away from this knowledge, Ethan. We owe it to ourselves to understand." I was torn, caught between the urge to protect my crew and the undeniable pull of discovery. "If something goes wrong." "Nothing will go wrong," she insisted, determination in her voice. "Trust me, Ethan. We have to try." With a heavy heart, I relented. "Fine. But we proceed with caution." Dr. Jensen grinned, her excitement infectious. I couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope, even as my instincts screamed at me to stop. We were on the brink of something monumental, and yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were standing on the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown. "Okay, let's do this," I said, glancing around at the others. "But remember, we need to be ready to pull back at any moment. No matter what we find, we must prioritize our safety." With that, Dr. Jensen approached the device, her fingers dancing over its surface as she began to input data. I watched, holding my breath, as the room filled with a low hum, the air crackling with energy. In that moment, I realized that the allure of knowledge can be a double-edged sword, and I could only hope we wouldn't pay the ultimate price for our curiosity. The air crackled with a palpable tension as Dr. Jensen activated the ancient device, her fingers deftly dancing over the unfamiliar controls. I stood beside her, heart pounding, the dim light of the chamber flickering in sync with the device's pulsating glow. "This is it," she whispered, her eyes gleaming with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "We're about to witness history." "Just remember, Lila, we don't know what this thing is capable of," I cautioned, glancing at Alex, who was monitoring the equipment with a furrowed brow. He nodded, clearly anxious, but the allure of discovery was too strong. The room filled with blinding light, and I shielded my eyes, feeling as though I were being drawn into another dimension. As the brightness dimmed, a holographic projection materialized before us, images of the civilization's last moments. I gasped, my heart sinking as the chaotic scenes unfolded. People running frantic, their faces twisted with terror. Buildings collapsed under the weight of an unseen catastrophe, and the violet skies burned with an unnatural fire. Why didn't they evacuate? I murmured, horrified. This can't be real. Dr. Jensen, entranced, barely heard me. Look at the technology. They were trying to harness something beyond their understanding. Her voice trembled with a mix of awe and dread. She leaned closer, as if the projection could whisper secrets to her. But then, without warning, the device emitted a low hum, growing louder, the lights flickering violently. Guys!" Alex shouted, his eyes wide as he struggled to maintain his balance. "Something's not right." Before I could respond, a surge of energy blasted from the machine, sending us sprawling to the ground. The world spun around me in a kaleidoscope of colors, and when I opened my eyes, I was back at the beginning of the experiment. The device stood silently, as if nothing had happened. What the hell just happened? I gasped, looking around at my teammates. Dr. Jensen was on her feet, her face pale as she processed what we had just witnessed. I think we looped," she stammered, a hint of fear creeping into her voice. "We're trapped in a memory." "Trapped? What do you mean?" I shot back, panic rising in my chest. "We need to break this cycle." "We have to try again," she insisted, her determination flaring. "There must be something we're missing. The device, it's responding to us somehow." As she prepared to initiate the experiment once more, I felt a shiver run down my spine. The air felt different, heavier, as if the very atmosphere was laden with the weight of the lost civilization's despair. And then, the device activated again, pulling us into the same horrific scenes we had just witnessed. Each loop revealed more of the civilization's desperate attempts to survive. I could feel the anguish radiating from the projections, their choices, their failures, the moment they realized they were doomed. It was as if their memories were intertwining with ours, filling my mind with dread. Why are we seeing this?
Gjeld, frustration boiling over.
It's like we're part of their tragedy. Dr. Jensen stood rigid, her fists clenched. We need to understand. Maybe there's a way to change things, to avoid their fate. Her eyes were wild, the obsession taking hold of her. But as we relived the chaos over and over, the truth began to settle in, a chilling realization creeping into my thoughts. Each time we returned to the beginning, the memories grew darker, revealing the depths of despair these beings had faced. I could sense a connection forming, a thread linking our existence to theirs, binding us to their fate. What if we're not just observers? I whispered, dread pooling in my stomach. What if we're meant to learn from their mistakes, but instead, we're repeating them? Alex's face paled, and he swallowed hard. We can't let this happen. We have to find a way to escape. But as we prepared for yet another attempt, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were already lost, trapped in a cycle that would reveal our darkest truths. The thought hung over us like a storm cloud, heavy and unyielding. Each time we activated the device, I felt us slipping further away from our reality, merging with the memories of a civilization long gone, a fate that could very well become our own. The air crackled with tension as we found ourselves trapped in the endless loop of despair. Each iteration of the civilization's downfall played out like a cruel mockery of our own fate, and I could feel the weight of desperation settle deep in my bones. I glanced over at Dr. Jensen, her face pale and eyes wild with an insatiable hunger for answers. "We have to find a way out, Ethan," she urged, her voice strained. "There has to be a way to reverse this." I shook my head, my mind racing through the chaos we'd already witnessed. "Dr. Jensen, the technology is too advanced. We don't even understand how it works. Every time we try, it just throws us back into the loop." My voice trembled as I spoke, the gravity of our situation suffocating. Then we need to push further. Maybe if I can just tap into this technology, she replied, her excitement bubbling over into a near-manic fervor. I could see the glimmer of obsession in her eyes, a dangerous spark that ignited my own fears.
Lila, no.
We can't keep risking ourselves. You don't know what it could do. I pleaded, stepping closer to her, desperate to reach her before she went too far. You've seen what happened before. This isn't just a puzzle to solve. It's a trap. But she wouldn't listen. The gleam in her eyes was too powerful, too consuming. If I can merge my consciousness with their technology, maybe I can unlock the secrets of their survival. We could save ourselves. Her words hung in the air like a promise, one that could either be our salvation or our damnation. Lila, please. I shouted, fear clawing at my throat. Think about the consequences. We're already part of their history. We don't need to be fused with it. My heart raced as I watched her approach the ancient device, her fingers trembling with both anticipation and dread. With a determined breath, she placed her hands on the console. I have to try. I can't let us fade away like them. Her voice was resolute, but I could hear the quiver beneath it, a whisper of doubt that she was trying to drown out. Stop. Don't do this. I reached out, but it was too late. The device responded to her touch, pulsing with an eerie light that began to fill the room. I felt a surge of energy ripple through the air, a sharp crackle that sent chills down my spine. Lila. I shouted, but she was already lost in her own world, her eyes glazed over as she connected with the device. The light exploded around us, blinding and overwhelming. I stumbled backward, shielding my eyes as the world around me warped and twisted. I could hear Lila's voice, echoing through the chaos, a blend of triumph and anguish. I'm unlocking it. I can feel their memories. And then it happened. The surge of energy intensified, enveloping us in a tempest of lights and sounds. I felt myself being pulled apart, my very essence unraveling as the device merged our consciousness with the remnants of the civilization. Their thoughts, their fears, their final moments flooded into my mind, a cacophony of despair and hopelessness that threatened to drown me. Ethan. I heard Lila's voice, faint and distant. We're becoming part of them. Panic clawed at my throat as I struggled against the tide of memories. I could see their faces, twisted in horror, feel their pain as if it were my own. No. We can't let this happen. I screamed, but it was like shouting into a void. The weight of their existence pressed down on me, suffocating and relentless. In that moment of merging, I understood. It wasn't just their fall we were reliving, it was our own. The realization crashed over me like a wave, and I felt myself slipping away, becoming a mere echo in the vast expanse of time. I could see Lila, her expression a mixture of fear and understanding, and then it all faded. We were lost souls now, entwined in the tragic history of a civilization that had once thrived. As the memories wrapped around us, I felt the futility of our struggle wash over me. No longer were we explorers seeking knowledge. We were prisoners of fate, doomed to repeat their cycle of despair for all eternity.